You already know what this mushroom looks like. You have seen it your entire life. A brilliant scarlet cap, glossy and round, dotted with little white flecks, sitting on a clean white stem. It is the mushroom of fairy tales, the one gnomes sit on, the one painted into children's books and video games and garden ornaments. It is, without question, the most recognizable mushroom on Earth. And almost no one knows that behind that cheerful, storybook face lies one of the strangest and most influential secret histories in the entire fungal world. This is Amanita muscaria, the fly agaric, and its story runs through Siberian shamans, Viking warriors, an ancient god drink of India, flying reindeer, and, if some are to be believed, the origin of Santa Claus himself. Almost none of it is what it seems. Let me show you why this innocent-looking mushroom may be the most mythologically loaded organism on the planet. First, the mushroom itself, because it is genuinely dangerous to misunderstand. The fly agaric is not like the psilocybin mushrooms of the last chapter. Its power comes from two different compounds, with names worth remembering: ibotenic acid and muscimol. Eaten raw, the mushroom is toxic and can make a person seriously ill, with confusion, nausea, delirium, and worse. But the peoples who used it learned, over long experience, to reduce its danger, drying the mushrooms or otherwise processing them, which converts much of the harsher ibotenic acid into the more active muscimol. And muscimol does something very different from a psychedelic like psilocybin. Rather than a serotonin-driven visionary state, it acts as a sedative and dream-bringer, producing a strange, dreamlike, often sleepy intoxication, sometimes with sensations of flying, of shifting size, of floating between waking and dream. Keep that dreamlike, floating quality in mind, because it echoes through everything that follows. Our story truly begins in the frozen expanse of Siberia, where for thousands of years, this mushroom was sacred. Among indigenous peoples like the Koryak, the Chukchi, and others, the fly agaric was a tool of the shaman, a key to the spirit world. Koryak legend held that the mushroom was a divine gift from a great mythic figure, a being sometimes called Big Raven, the first shaman and ancestor of humankind, who was given the mushroom's power by the gods and taught his people its use. Shamans ate the processed mushroom to enter trances, to speak with spirits, to heal, to divine the future, and to endure the crushing boredom and darkness of the long Arctic winters. And here we come to one of the most startling details in all of ethnobotany. In these Siberian cultures, it was known that the body does not fully break down the mushroom's active compounds. They pass through and remain potent in the urine. And so, in a practice that sounds shocking to modern ears but was entirely logical, the precious effects of a scarce and sacred mushroom could be passed on, person to person, by drinking the urine of someone who had consumed it. Even more remarkably, the same was observed in reindeer. Reindeer are wildly attracted to the fly agaric, seeking it out and eating it, and becoming visibly intoxicated, and herders noticed, and made use of, this connection between the animals, the mushroom, and its lingering power. Hold on to that image: reindeer, snow, a red and white mushroom, a sense of flight, because it is about to become very familiar. Because this brings us to the most beloved legend attached to the fly agaric, the theory that this mushroom helped shape the modern image of Santa Claus. Now, I want to be honest and careful here, because this is folklore and speculation, not established fact, and serious scholars debate it. But the parallels are genuinely striking, and here is how the story goes. Picture a Siberian winter. The snow is so deep it buries the doors of the villagers' homes, so the only way in is through the smoke hole in the roof. The shaman, it is said, would arrive in midwinter around the solstice, bringing a sack of dried mushrooms as gifts, entering, in effect, down through the roof, down the chimney. He wore, in some tellings, red and white, the colors of the mushroom itself. The mushrooms were dried by hanging them on the branches of evergreen pine trees, red baubles hanging from green boughs, like ornaments on a Christmas tree. And the visions the mushroom gave, of flight, of soaring through the sky, tangled together with those mushroom-loving reindeer, until you have a red and white figure who comes at midwinter, enters through the chimney, brings gifts, decorates evergreen trees, and flies through the sky behind reindeer. The modern Santa is, of course, a blend of many sources, a real St. Nicholas, centuries of European folklore, and, famously, later advertising. But the shamanic mushroom theory offers a haunting possible route for some of its strangest features. It is not proven, but once you have heard it, you can never quite look at the image the same way again. The fly agaric's mythological reach goes further still and deeper into time. Nearly 4,000 years ago, in the ancient world of the Indus Valley and the early Vedic religion that would shape Hinduism, sacred texts speak of a mysterious ritual drink called Soma, a divine substance that granted visions, ecstasy, and communion with the gods, a drink so revered it was itself worshipped as a deity. For centuries, no one knew what plant Soma was made from. And in a famous and hotly contested book, the same R. Gordon Wasson, who revealed the Mexican mushroom cults, argued that Soma, the god drink of the ancient Aryans, was in fact the fly agaric. He pointed to clues in the sacred hymns, descriptions of a plant with no leaves, no roots, no seeds, found in the mountains, and even, tellingly, references consistent with that same startling practice of consuming the drink a second time through urine. Many scholars remain unconvinced, and the true identity of Soma is still argued over today. But the very possibility that one of the oldest sacred substances in human religion may have been this fairy tale mushroom is staggering. And then there are the Vikings. Perhaps the most famous legend of all claims that the Norse berserkers, those terrifying warriors who threw themselves into battle in a trance of unstoppable rage, howling, biting their shields, apparently immune to pain, achieved that state by eating fly agaric before combat. It is a gripping image, and it has been repeated for over 2 centuries, popularized by a Swedish writer in the 1700s. But here I have to play the honest historian again, because modern scholarship has grown skeptical. The problem is pharmacological. Muscimol, remember, tends towards sedation, confusion, and loss of coordination, hardly the profile of a warrior fighting with lethal precision. A berserker on fly agaric might be more likely to fall asleep than to storm a shield wall. Many historians now suspect that if the berserkers used any substance at all, it may have been something else entirely, perhaps a plant like henbane, which better fits the descriptions of aggressive fury. The Viking mushroom legend is a wonderful story. It is just probably not a true one, and part of uncovering a secret history is knowing which secrets don't hold up. So step back and consider this extraordinary mushroom. The same scarlet, white-spotted cap that decorates children's storybooks has been, across the centuries, a shaman's key to the spirit world in Siberia, a possible ancestor of Santa Claus, a candidate for the lost divine drink of ancient India, and the star of a Viking legend that may not be real. It sits at the crossroads of religion, folklore, and myth like almost no other organism, hiding its deep strangeness behind the friendliest face in the forest. And that may be the quiet lesson of the fly agaric. We think we know it. It is the most familiar mushroom in the world, reduced to a cute cartoon, a garden ornament, a symbol of childish whimsy. But that familiarity is a kind of forgetting. Underneath the fairy tale image lies a real and potent organism that ancient peoples treated with awe, that wove itself into the sacred stories of cultures across the northern world, and that carried humans, in their imaginations, up through the smoke hole and into the flying, dreaming sky. The storybook mushroom was never just a story. It was one of humanity's oldest doorways to the world beyond the visible, wearing a disguise so charming that we stopped seeing the mystery entirely. In the next Secret History, we turn from myth to medicine, and to a discovery so important it may have saved more human lives than almost anything else in history, a humble mold, growing on a forgotten dish, that changed the fate of the world. The Secret History of Penicillin. If this hidden world keeps surprising you, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.